Turning now over to weather. We are in a weather alert right now. Several counties in central Ohio, including Franklin County, are under a severe thunderstorm watch right now until 9 tonight. This is a live look at Columbus with our Skyview camera. And Doppler 10 meteorologist Ross Caruso, I know you've been keeping your eye on this for the past several hours. What is the potential, rain that's coming?
Yeah, well, a lot of it's going to be much like a lot of folks maybe woke up in the middle of the night last night with some of the heavy rain. Probably not going to have much noisy storms as what we had late last night.
Okay, that's
but
good.
Each day, we've kind of been in this situation where we've had storms and then they've kind of fizzled out. Well, today we've had a more conducive environment where we could see some of these stronger storms due to the fact that they started firing up earlier this afternoon. But that being said, still for the most part, things have been pretty dry here in Columbus other than what we saw earlier today. But take a look at our dew points. We are into the 70s. That is just extremely humid. It feels like 87 with the air temperature right at 82, turning a bit cloudy for the time being. But for the most part, nice to see that we had seen some breaks in the clouds and also winds out of the south at about 14 miles an hour. Bit of a mess on satellite and radar. We actually do have an active tornado warning far out to the eastern part of the state over towards Tuscarawas County. Very low risk for tornadoes today. The main concern is that of strong damaging wind gusts and some isolated large hail. That being said, you can see there's essentially a hole where we're seeing a lot of this storm activity, and that's mainly around Franklin County, south towards Pickaway. A lot of the storms that have been moving through parts of southern Ohio, that's continuing to weaken and push out to the east. This line of storm activity is mainly north of Columbus, and that's not even drifting so much to the south. It's moving generally to the east-northeast. And then, of course, the storm complex we've been tracking since it moved through Indianapolis, that is continuing to move to the east. But there are some signs that this is weakening a little bit. It's not as organized as what it once was, but still likely going to be packing a punch with some strong gusty winds and, of course, some heavy rain and quite the amount of lightning strikes. That's going to be pushing out of western Ohio, moving towards Columbus probably within the next 2 hours. What we're dealing with just to the north, you can probably see the dark skies if you just look up north towards Delaware, Marysville, Bellefontaine, over towards Mount Vernon and Knox County. Certainly a different story where we're looking at some of these heavier downpours than versus what we're looking at to the south. And those far to the south and southeast over towards Oak Hill and through around Jackson County, starting to clear up a little bit there, just north of Elizabeth, starting to see some of that heavier rain move through, likely seeing a little bit of that activity over towards Athens as we head into the early part of the night. But for the most part, still looking at the main threats for us, of course, looking at damaging wind gusts, isolated large hail, relatively low risk for flash flooding and that of isolated tornadoes. But again, still, even though we are seeing a little bit of weakening, we'll likely have some heavy rain nonetheless. And of course, some of those breezy winds coming through as we head into this evening. Might have another 1 to maybe 2 hours of dry time here in Columbus before we'll see some of those showers and storms come through. So if you have plans this evening, if you're going to be grilling out here in Franklin County, further to the south, definitely want to make sure that you're getting those outdoor activities in now, because you're not going to completely miss the storms as we head into the early part of the night, which by around 9 o'clock, that's when we'll start to see the changes for our severe thunderstorm watch. So a lot of this should expire, and then quickly we should see some improvements with our weather by the time we're at 11 o'clock tonight. So virtually the severe threat probably going to be done with by around 9, 10 o'clock across most of the state for us, maybe not so much for the far eastern extreme part. But then guess what? We got more chances for rain heading into tomorrow, although it's not going to be nearly as widespread and it's not going to be as toasty. Temperatures will be climbing into the low 80s, but something I want to keep a close eye out for, because we will see some isolated downpours picking back up through the mid-morning going into your Monday. We'll then see scattered showers and storms popping up into the afternoon, but it does look like some of this will weaken as we head into your Monday night. By 8, 9 o'clock, that's where we'll start to see these storms weaken, which of course, definitely for a lot of the firework displays going around town and for red, white, and boom, we are going to be looking at some isolated storms still lingering, but then starting to clear up as we head into sunset shortly after 9 o'clock, and then things should be mainly dry by the time we head into a lot of those firework displays. And then going into Tuesday for the 4th, we're actually going to see another chance for some pop-up showers and storms, but similar to that of Monday, not as much coverage. We'll see some of that linger into the early part of the night, and then very toasty for us as we head into Wednesday with highs back near 90 degrees.
All right.